Alright, so let us talk about some various features of the Godot engine. Let us start with the file system. It is where if you can create your various files and scenes, or rather store them. First of all, what is this res colon double slash? If you right click on it, you will see that you can open it in file manager. If you will open it, then you will see that there is no such files name here, no such folder name here. Rather, res is basically the alias for your project path. If you create a new folder here, such as say scenes, when you are essentially creating a file structure in which you will work, if you open it in file manager, you will notice that now we have this folder which we didn't have before. Same goes for, what do you call it, let's say let's create a new text file. And so now that we have this documentation, as you can see, here it is, documentation.txt. You can add various documentation related stuff to it, or anything you want, basically a txt file. You can create new scripts from here with various root node selected. For reference, a node is the basic type of basic building blocks of a scene which come together to form your game. So let's give it some basic name, and we have a scene created which has a simple node with the name demonstration. You can also create a new script which, if you want to, with whatever name you want, with whatever file path you want. For example, if you click this, you can decide to put it in here, no problem, and it has been created. Here it is. So these are the various things you can do it in the file manager. You can also obviously move things around, such as, like, let's create a new folder in scripts just to demonstrate. And where it go? Okay, here it is. We can move this here, pretty simple, and we have it now in scripts folder. And even though we did all of this here, if you open it in file manager, you will see that we have the new script file here. Don't worry about this, but it's the import tab. It basically defines how Godot will interact with various files that become part of its scene tab. For example, if you import an audio file, if you import a image file, such as the default icon, I have this selected. If I go to import, it says import as texture 2D. Here's the file name, compress mode is lossless, stuff like that basically. But these are the settings which Godot are applying in order to while interacting with this file. That does not mean the original file is being affected. Let's go to show file manager. There is icon.svg and there is icon.svg.import file. Let's open it up. You will see import type is compressed texture 2D, whereas the path is the path is res icon.svg. Now let's move this to, actually let's create a new folder here. Let's call it assets, and let's move this file to assets. The icon.svg.import has not been imported. Right now let's go to here, and you can, if you notice, something happened which was basically Godot scanning the file structure and refixing everything. Now we have that file in here. Now if we open the file manager, as you can see in icon.svg, with icon we have an import file, even though we didn't import it. Its destination file, as you can see, has changed. Here it is, source file. So basically the location from which the file is picked, res assets icon.svg. Whereas if we go outside, project node, tutorial, setup, export, documentation, there is no import file outside. Now we have this selected If we go to import and change the import type here, let's re-import it. We have changed it, and now if we, as you can see, the icon has changed. But now if we go to show in file manager and open this, as you can see, the import type has changed to bitmap, whereas the path remains the same. As far as this file is concerned, well, as you can see, it remains SVG file that we can open. Its own type has not changed. Whoops, sorry about that. Let's just refix that to what was that, texture 2D. Re-import it, and while this icon might not have changed, if we go to show in file manager and look at the import file, it's once again compressed texture 2D. Now next is the scene tab. This is where you create various nodes which come together to create various scenes which come together to create our file, our final game project. For example, I have a basic node here, which also gives me access to some properties, such as the ability to attach a script here, such as say this new script, which I can directly drag and drop here. Can reset that here, or I can directly drag and drop here, or again reset it here, or for that matter detach it from here, or attach a script via here. As you can see, and it has created whoops, let's not bother with its code right now. Anyways, you can also add new nodes via this, and once you have created a scene full of nodes that you want in that scene, you can add that as a child to this using this icon. Those things will make sense to you more once we see it in action, but for now there is something else that I want to show you, which is inspector. It contains some various properties for this node that we have direct access to in our graphical user interface. Ability to attach a script here, for example, or how it will behave when the game engine is paused, stuff like that. Those are the properties that a node has. Now if we go to node 2D, you will see that it actually also has some of those properties. The ability to attach script, for example, the thread groups, the process, but it has some more stuff. Basically, canvas item, which affects its visibility and how it's displayed, as well as some positional data such as the orientation of it, its scale, how big it is, its rotation, its, well, basically all that stuff. How does that work? Behind the scenes demonstrates the node object had some code written that gives it this property. Alright, so does that mean all of that was written behind the scenes for node 2D as well? Not really. That is this thing called inheritance. It basically, just like how a child inherits some genes from their parents, so this node similarly this node 2D similarly inherits some code from its parent object, that is the node, and that allows it to use that code without needing it to be rewritten in this. And when I say I do not mean this kind of structure, it's a general structure here. So if you press F1 and go to help, type node, as you can see, node inherits from object in general. And if we type node 2D, as you can see, it inherits from not just object but node and canvas item, from both. That's effectively, well, and similarly if we add a, rather than making let's make a child of demonstration directly, or rather let's delete demonstration base node and add another node, sprite 2D. Now if we go down here, we'll see that it has all of those features that node had, the script, process, etc. And you can see that here it denotes that it is being inherited by node. Then it has all that stuff that canvas item had, it is inheriting from that. Then it has all that stuff that node 2D had, and then it has some stuff that it itself has. defining its own various properties while reusing the code from its parent objects, thus saving up on space and reducing the chances of error by this method. But the idea is basically just that you can basically use various nodes and use them in various scenes. I will show you an example. Let's create let's create a basic scene which can be like something like a gameplay scene. Okay, let's create a new scene. You don't need to know about these nodes, but let's say we created a character body, we added a sprite 2D to it, and to this sprite 2D we gave this icon. Now as you can see, demonstration does not have anything, whereas this scene has these icon, has this property, has these nodes, character body and sprite. Now I can go here and I can add where did it go? Okay, yeah, here it is, and it has been here. Now if I were to make changes to this, such as its display, let's make it something like this. Currently nothing has happened, right? But once we save it here, you can see that changes have been affected here as well, and that is essentially how various node scenes and creating your game file works in Godot. And I think that should explain the inspector property so far too. This section constitutes of signals and groups, but I mean that signals most definitely requires talking about events, so I think that is beyond the scope of this video, so we will worry about that later. History is basically just the various stuff that you have done. Sometimes it hangs for me when I use history settings, so well, there's that. But well, yeah, I mean how nice of it to hang on me. I should probably just disable history settings anyways, so let's just kill it. One sec, let's kill it and let's reopen it. Okay, it was up. I should probably rename the folder. Anyways, so where were we? Right. So history is basically just keeps track of your various changes you have made for that session. Although because for me it crashes, I don't tend to work on it all that much. This is where you can change between your script and your game icons and your 2D scene icons. These are for running and testing your projects and various scenes. You can change your renderer from here. You can, if you think you need more real estate, whether in this mode or in scripting mode, you can create distraction free mode here like this, or you can even make this window floating so that it is a separate icon in itself. As you can see this it, but if you open this, close this, it does come back here, it doesn't get closed. I mean, well, yeah. So what's next? Right, project settings. Let's go here a bit. The name of the project, it's the icon that is being used, all that stuff. You can decide your FPS for the project from here, and the main scene from here. Main scene is the first scene that gets loaded. The boot slash icon from here, or the color, the resolution from here, the stretch mode. Okay, let me show you what stretch mode does. Let's first add where did it go? Character body 2D here. It was not saved last time, so it didn't. When I closed it, it disappeared. Now for stretch mode, I have it disabled. Right. Whoops. Let's press W. Move it down here. As you can see, there is a blue line here. Now let's run this as my main scene. It will ask me to select a scene. I am selecting the current scene as the main scene. It is building that up and it will run it in a bit. So yeah, now you can see it's there. All right, now if we affect how the window is being resized, as you can see that causes that icon to disappear. What will changing the stretch mode do then? Let's change it to canvas items and aspect to keep. Let's try running it again, and what will effectively happen is that it will maintain its relative positioning. As you can see, unlike last time, it's maintaining its relative positioning to the rest of the window, or rather the viewport, when it's being displayed, and that is effectively what stretch mode does. Viewport does tend to, as far as I know, have a bit more of what do you call it, better resolution, but at the cost of some performance. So canvas item is what I see mostly used, but you do whatever you prefer, and that's up to you. I mean, if you're working in 3D, you're better off working in Jolt physics rather than any, the default physics engine. For GD script, you can enable these options. They are pretty much self explanatory. If there is an unused variable, it will give a warning. If there is some kind of return value that is not used, it will be ignored, stuff like that, unsafe. Basically, you can how the warning settings and error settings happen, you can affect them here. Shader language, all that stuff. If you want occlusion culling enabled, the renderer that you want, you can alter from here as well. Reflections, the lightings, all that stuff. Now the input devices, networks, memories. Oh, this is kind of important for me. Here you can see how the scenes are named. For example, as you can see, hold on, this scene is, let's create a basic scene. This scene has this kind of writing style where N is capital, and let's just add another something to here. I don't know, let's just add anything. Let's like add, I don't know, animation player, whatever. As you can see, it follows the same style, capital A, capital P, and rest everything is small. And those are node name casing, which is Pascal case. Our C name casing is snake case. Whereas script name casing is auto, which is also basically Pascal case. Sorry, snake case is, let's change it to like kebab case, I don't know. Let's just attach, let's just save this scene, and you will see that even though this is named in Pascal casing, here you can see it is being named like this. You can change the default naming structure there basically. Let's save it. If we attach a script here, as you can see, this is the type of file path that is being file name that is being displayed, which is not allowed by C#, so it is giving invalid here, but you get the idea of what that thing does. It basically is an auto setting for that. And hold on, there should be another, right, okay, right, these are layer. Actually, you don't need to know about layer names right now, do you? Yeah, right now it's not important to know about layer names, so let's just ignore that. Globals is where you, sorry, plugins is where you would enable any plugins install. Globals is where you would add any singleton files that you want in your project. Input map is where you will add an input to be mapped to a key, so that you can later what do you call it you can later use this mapping in your code to dictate how pressing the key should behave. Let's see, this I already talked about. I think, oh yeah, if you ever want more real estate because you think you have less, you can just reduce these things. Oh, this, right, to affect only various audio nodes, you can add various buses with various names, and you can add audio nodes which can effectively have various buses they listen to. So the audio that will be channeled to them will be pipelined through these buses. Based on what I know, this is basically an audio mixer, but hell if I know how to use an audio mixer. Anyways, so yeah, if you have got an animation player, you can work here. If you don't have the animation player, you basically cannot. But let's delete the animation player. And now if we go to animation player, we cannot create any new animations, whereas this option was active before this. This is where you can write some shader code using various shader files which you can create via either shader material or well just shader scripts, I believe. Anyways, so I think that is more or less about it that we need to talk about for right, the editor. There are some things to talk about here. The editor settings, you can affect the things such as language, display scale, all that stuff from here as well. First of all, this is something that I have enabled for my own convenience. You can do it however you want, but there is another ways, property naming stuff, all that stuff. How do I explain this without explaining properties? But that is beyond the scope of this video. But basically you can affect various settings here, the themes, the asset libraries, the network connections, your file systems. Let's see here, there is the text editor, appearance, let's see here, show line numbers is on, so shows the line numbers. The type of current blank type is line or block, stuff like that. We also have this code folding in white spaces, all that stuff enabled. The behavior of basically which these are various things which you will need to essentially what do you call it, experiment, but it basically mostly just does whatever it says, such as performs automatic indentation, indents wrapped lines, or currently does not trims white spaces on string, which is basically just empty spaces like script list, external editor, path, uh, how code completion works and how much of a delay it can have. Add type hints helps enables you to basically get some better completion hints, node paths, single quotes, all that stuff. For help, class reference examples, you can set these things up. Sorry about that. Anyway, so yeah, so normally it saves whenever you run a project, which is because of this option, save before running, as far as I understand. This is where you set up your C# core editor, all that stuff. That's pretty much it. Here you get the output if you have anything to print or whatever. Here you can get the errors that you can get, or basically various performance profilers, stuff like that. Yeah, that's about it, I think. I don't think there is anything else to talk about this anymore. Oh right, the manage editor features. I'm currently working in 2D, so 2D is the current editor, but I can go to 3D and make that current. And I have 3D button here, but since I'm working in 2D and I don't need 3D nodes there, so I don't have a 3D tab here. And if I were to add node 3D, I don't get the option here, even though node 3D is an option that I would get in the 3D option menu, such as node 3D, as you can see. But I mean, that's about it for now, I think. Yeah, basically, yeah, that's about it. We will look into some of the things like various nodes and maybe a little bit of code in a little bit in the future, but like let's not worry about that for now. Better to just get first get used to the user interface, so that because one of the problems I had faced when I was first learning Godot was learning how to use both this and the code section, and it was a bit of a headache so to say. So let's just learn one thing at a time, and well, yeah, I mean that's about it. Okay, let's stop this. Yep.